Hi everyone, my name is Inanula and I share years of personal experience in the fashion industry, giving you key insights into buying and merchandising skills. If you want to move up fast in fashion buying and merchandising, you need to master this: the 3 stages every season runs on: pre-season, in-season, and post-season. Every successful fashion season has a secret rhythm, and if you miss a beat, you lose sales. Today, I'll be breaking down the entire fashion buying and merchandising life cycle, showing you what the top retailers do at each step. From the pre-season decisions that shape your range, to the in-season moves that protect your margins, and the post-season actions that set you up for the next big win. Whether you're a junior merchandiser or a head buyer, this is the industry standard pre-season, in-season, and post-season life cycle that keeps top retailers ahead of the game. So what I've done is I've compiled a task life cycle in a fun little document or spreadsheet, and over here what we have is it all panned out for you, and it's a task life cycle with activity and your objective and tools used, and then all of the seasons that those belong to. This is also a fun visual way of looking at it as well. So I'll just explain through and give you a nice little overview. Again, something like this is available for download. If you do join the member newsletter, this is available for you to download and have the document for yourself. And if not, if you don't want to subscribe to any member newsletter, it's available for download on the link below. So I'll start with the first activity. And I think anyone would agree, before anything is done, you really want to do your trend and market research. That's the first thing that's done in the buying and merchandising process, because the objective is to identify emerging trends, understand customer preferences, and you use data for that. And that's through forecasting reports, competitive analysis, you'll do some comp shopping as well. And you really want to know what's happening, where is my range going to sit, or my brand, or what are we going to do this season? That's what your objective is. And the tools that are used for that, the most prominent tool around is WGSN. It's world renowned for trend and market research. They even go beyond fashion. They're the number 1 trend forecaster for any enterprise and big organization. So if you are working for a massive retailer, you would have used WGSN. There's also Edited, a huge trend forecaster as well. And then there's many other trend forecasting platforms too, including Google Trends. And all of these are used all the way from your desktop research, all the way from social media, all the way up until, your high ticket, Edited, and WGSN. So this is definitely a pre-season activity. And as you can see, it's marked there. And this will be done by, mainly it's a buying activity. But like I said, buying and merchandising are mirrored. You would have merchandisers analyzing pre-season figures, because a merchandiser would need to know, for example, the cost behind a style. So a buyer would want to know the visuals and everything, from what is the style going to look like that we want to stock here. But a merchandiser will be more concerned with how much of that style are we going to stock, how are we going to price it, how many units are we going to put behind it, all of that key information. So next you have range planning. Range planning comes afterwards, because now you're ready to build your range. based on your trend and market research and what you have decided you're going to stock for your season. The objective is to build a balanced and commercially viable product assortment, and it will be aligned with brand strategy and also your financial targets too. So the tools that you'll use for that is obviously your range plan document. You could use Excel for that, or you would use many other range planning software platforms and tools. There's many software platforms around for putting range planning together. There's a lot on the market. And another thing that I could do is I could do a video on information about all of these different tools. For example, above when I mentioned your WGSN and your trend forecasting platforms, and then now here with your range planning software tools, I'd be happy to share how all of these tools work and give you more information on each of these tools. Just drop a comment below if that's something you'd like to see. And yeah, so again, the range planning is a pre-season activity for sure, because you're still putting the range together. With line building, that's like going a level deeper than range planning, because now that you've decided on your range and all of the items in your range, you want to go down by line and say, okay, so for each style, how many options of each, what are the price points, what are the costs? You'll even go into the little trims and things. You want to go into the size breakdowns. You want to understand, are we buying mostly in smaller sizes or bigger sizes? Is it going to be what we call it a size curve? You know, your extra small, medium and large, or is it going to be your 8, 10, 12? Or if you're American, you know, the different 8, 10 and 12, you know, I think it starts more like 4 and all of that. And so the tools that will be used are like your line sheets, Adobe Illustrator. You'll have PLM systems, which is product lifecycle management, and then you'll have range building software as well. Again, that's a pre-season activity. You're still doing this before you've gone in season. Then you will have a supplier briefing and sampling, because now all your lines are ready. And so your supplier will now be engaged. You will align your supplier with understanding the expectations for your sample development, your quality, and also timelines and pricing. And the tools that will be used, there's a supplier brief template, there'll be tech packs, there'll be sample trackers, there'll be you know, like critical paths as well, and then also just emailing them back and forth and that kind of communication. This is also a pre-season activity. Again, some of these tools I do have templates for. So for example, your tech pack and your supplier brief template, I do have documents like these available, and your critical path too. So definitely subscribe to the member newsletter, and you could get all of those downloads that are pre-populated and formulas built in for you to, you know, it's just ready to plug and play and use. So yeah, moving on to cost price negotiation. That's again dealing with your suppliers. So the objective here is to secure the best possible margin through negotiation on your cost price. You also negotiate lead times and your minimum order quantities, because these all do affect your price in the end anyway as well. For example, your lead times, something can be cheap as chips on your cost price from your supplier, but they're saying it's going to take, let's say, 8 weeks to get over to you, and that's like after it's been manufactured. So there's your manufacturing time, which is compiled over your critical path, which I do also have a template for. But then there's also your lead time on top of that, you know, just literally the time to get it on either the ship, or if it's being aired to you, or if it's coming by a road, by truck, So even if something is really cheap to make, if it's taking long to get to you, it's no good because you are not going to be able to sell it in season. And if you miss the in-season opportunity, you've missed sales. And then it's the same for your minimum order quantities, because you want to have decent and reasonable minimum order quantities. If you are a small brand and you're dealing with a supplier who's telling you need a minimum order quantity of 1,000 units, that's too much per line, because you can't afford that. You're not going to sell all of that, especially you're not going to sell 1,000 of every line if you're a really small brand. So yeah. Then the tools that are used are your cost negotiation sheets. You'll always have your Excel. Then there's also supplier portals and margin calculators too. So supplier portals are very interesting. It's, kind of an API. This is getting quite tech, but essentially you log in as a retailer and the supplier will log in as a supplier into the same portal as two different companies and two different entities, but somehow you will be able to engage on this portal and see the same information up to date, updated, regularly, to say your style is now, for example, if we're talking lead times, say your style is now manufactured, or your style is still in the toiling phase, for example. And toiling would mean, anyway, that's getting too technical, but I could do a more in-depth video on product development and lead time and product life cycle. But again, this is pre-season. So moving on, you've got your buy sign-off. Buy sign-off is now we're getting somewhere. The objective here is to obtain internal approvals and finalize purchase commitments based on assortment plans and your budgets. So this is hopefully where everything has come together, whereby we're happy with the styles and how much they cost, and we're happy with how many we're buying of each of that, and the lead times as well from those suppliers. Then the tools that are used will be a buy sign-off template. There's a sign-off sheet that will be used. It's a whole document where there'll be lots of checklists where this is quite a senior activity, where senior buyers and senior merchandisers would make sure that, okay, have we agreed cost price? Cost price has been locked in. Okay, lead time has been locked in, and the delivery format has been locked in. For example, is it being delivered by ship, or is it being delivered by truck, and things like that. And there'll be approval decks and your range boards, and there's always going to be an Excel spreadsheet about all of this. So again, these are things I do have documents for. Just drop a comment for any information really. And then we're still in pre-season, so a lot of planning goes in before we step into selling phase. Then we have OTB allocation. That's your open to buy allocation. The objective here is to allocate open to buy budgets by category and delivery, ensuring that your budget discipline and stock is in control. So we want to make sure that we are managing how much we're taking in each drop, because when you plan a range, obviously the whole range has been locked in, but we phase out the delivery schedule, and we say we will receive the first drop of this line here, and the second drop of this line here, and the third drop here, and so it all smoothly gets delivered. And so even for the supplier, they only have to make it in little bits, and that keeps everything smoothly rolling. So the tools that will be used for your OTB allocation is OTB planning sheets. There'll be retail planning systems as well. Again, your PLM, it's your product lifecycle management. There's lots of software and tools for all of these things. If you are in a proper industry, proper high street retailer, you will be using the latest software. Or if you are with a niche brand, you will be using, a lot of them still do use Excel spreadsheets like the templates that I've got. But what I will say is definitely for learning purposes, an Excel spreadsheet is the best because it actually shows you the formulas that are being calculated behind each input. Whereas on a software, you're inputting information or reading information that's being calculated in the background, and you probably wouldn't really know what it's pulling information from to be able to give you that information, if that makes sense. Yeah, basically you want to be able to see the actual calculation, the actual formula. And so that's why Excel is always very handy and always still used, even in your proper high streets. They'll have the Excel, but they will also have the software tools as well. So last but not least in your pre-season activity is your phasing and delivery planning. So with your phasing and delivery planning, the objective is to schedule product drops in line with your marketing campaigns and the peaks of your season, and also align them with the supplier lead times too. So it's kind of really merging those two ends of things. If you know it's going to be a mid-season sale, you want to make sure that drops are planned very well around that. Or if there's an event where you have for example, if your brand is a part of press, you definitely want things dropping at the right time so that when it's advertised and customers do come onto your site or visit your store, that the stock is there. So that's the objective for that. And then the tools that are used are delivery calendars, critical path trackers, line plans as well. And it will also be promotional calendars too that will be used in this, because you want to know when events are. So now, after all of that, you would finally be in season. And so the first activity that's done in season is sales tracking and reporting. This is where we would gather all of the information that has happened from the first drop, usually a week's time frame. And the objective is to monitor your sales performance and versus it with your targets and your KPIs. And it will guide you through trading and reforecasting as well. So the tools that are used for this heavily is your purchase order dashboards. You'd also have things like Tableau, which is a analytical tool for sales. Always have your Excel, like I said, and then there's things like BI as well, business intelligence, and there's just so much software for things like that, grabbing sales information, linking it with your POS dashboards, because your point of sale records all of this information, all of the sales, and then feeds it in through all of these systems. And then the buying and merchandising team would read that information and make decisions based on how has sales performed, and has it met our targets that were listed out in pre-season, has it done how we had hoped, and then you'd move on from there. Then your next thing would be rebuys and reforecasts. The objective for that would be to now optimize availability and to react to demand. You will adjust your stock levels and your ordering units and additional units and all of that. And so the tools that you would use would be your Wizzy, your reforecasting templates. You always have Excel, and then planning systems as well. Now, rebuys and reforecasts are very important. It's really where you tweak how things are going. You would never just buy everything, put it in, and then sit back for a season. Every single week, even midweek, probably every day, you would be reforecasting, because based on how sales are doing, based on how performance is going, is based on how you're going to rebuy. And you don't want to overbuy, and you also don't want to underbuy. So that would be a crucial in-season activity. Next, you would be having markdown strategy. Now, the objective for this would be to maximize sell-through by planning timely markdowns and to reduce terminal stock while also still protecting your margin. Again, everything really does sound very contradictory because it's like, oh, you want to mark down, but then you want to protect the margin. But again, that's where the talent is. That's how you make your money. Because you do want to eat through the stock at the end of the day. If many weeks are going and the stock isn't really moving, you need to now be looking at markdown strategy. And the way you do that while protecting the margin is by only doing it in tweaks, right? So that's where you see things like promotions and things like that, or sale, because the retailer is just gently nudging the stock in the right place at the right time and hoping that we can do it in a balanced way. The tools that are used are your markdown plans. You'll have a markdown calculator too, and then many other pricing tools that will all be linked to your POS dashboard, so that obviously it all feeds through to the tills and you're selling it at the new updated price. So one of the many things that we used to do was updating the new price on things. And yeah, so the next thing in the task life cycle is promotions and trade decisions. So markdown is more of your markdown strategy is more of a full view of all sale conversations. Then your promotion and trade decisions is the tweaking side of things. This is the objective here is to drive sales through strategic price offers and promotions, and then obviously again while managing the impact on margins. So the tools that are used here is also your promotional calendar. You use trade packs too. Trade packs are basically sales information built over time, not just your sales sheet, which is like weekly sales or even day sales they have. But basically the point here is making the stock move in a more reasonable way, making the stock move not too impacting our margin, but also still moving at the end of the day, so that we can restock, get some fresh stock in, and obviously still make profit on the stock that we are trying to move. So you'll do your light promotions. Then you'll have visual merchandising input. That ensures cohesive visual presentation that supports product strategy and sales goals. It's all about the way things look in store. There is also online visual merchandising, because you want to know what category is going to show first, what's our hero product, what are we talking about the most, what are we going to shout about, and then what is going to sit in the background and can just tick along because we know it's going to sell. And that's usually things like that are core items, like for example jeans, your black jeans, or your regular wash denim that can sit in the back, because we know that always goes. We have our denim section, our denim category. Then something we would shout about would be something very new, something very seasonal, something that doesn't stay in very long. Like if it was a nice cute top, or a nice dress, or nice summer top, summer dress, or an occasion wear. You have in summer there's also very much wedding season. If it was like a nice cool this wedding guest category now, all of that kind of stuff would very much be a visual merchandiser's concern. You would use things like planograms. Those are very helpful for plotting the store without having to be in the store. There will be visual guidelines. You'll use very much Adobe Creative Suites for that. And you can just plot your store in the most perfect way. And you do the same for online, obviously, too. Then, still in season, we have stock management, and that objective there is to manage stock flow and availability across DCs and stores to maintain optimal inventory level. So, DCs means distribution centers, and yeah, we want to put the stock in the right place. So, what that means is we want to make the stock available in inventory as quickly as possible for the customer to get. And if you are doing this for a, multinational retailer, international retailer, you want to put enough stock in each place. The reason we mention distribution centers is because there will be obviously the main delivery from the supplier to your distribution center as a retailer. Then it would be the retailer's job to distribute it on from there. And they would have to put enough units online, enough units in, for example, the different regions that they've got.